So let's talk for a minute about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Trump said on day one he wanted to end that, and he said he could do it within 24 hours. Obviously, Trump's got a lot to do. He promised a lot of things on day one, so he hasn't gotten to this issue yet. But that issue is going to be a lot easier said to be dealt with than actually done. And that's for a number of reasons. So I'm going to link a couple of articles in the description below. One of them talks about how the Ukraine war was really a proxy war. It was like a weapon against Russia more than defending Ukraine, which everybody knew that except for the low information people out there. But it's not about preserving Ukraine. Ukraine's been destroyed as a country. This is about hurting Russia, and like I said, everybody that's informed knows that. Now, when you talk to people, they're going to give you different reasons for it. Some will say that this is as a means to collapse the Russian state, and they hold that the Russian state in a good light, saying that Russia is the. I've even heard some people say that Putin was the leader of the free world, which I don't agree with that. But I know others say that it was a means of promoting freedom by the destruction of the Russian state. So, to that I would say, if you want to promote freedom, you should first do it here in the United States, and you can lead by example, and that is a more effective way of promoting freedom. But that aside, it's not going to be an easy conflict to solve because people's interests are being overlapped. So you have the special interest here in the United States that wants to keep the conflict going because they're making a lot of money on the conflict. You got the hardliners in Ukraine that want Crimea and the Donbass back, which they're not getting because Russia will not cede that territory. And the Russians, for their part, the hardliners there want the entirety of the Donbass. They want to annex Nouveau Russia, which is the eastern and southern part of Ukraine, which would, if they get their way, that would landlock Ukraine, and it would just destroy them as an economic, destroy any economic opportunity that they have because they're landlocked. They don't have a means to access to the sea. Another part about this is that Russia, and this is a misconception, Russia, I don't believe, wants to occupy the entire Ukraine. I think that from the very beginning, the goal was, for Russia, was to make Ukraine like Belarus. In other words, to make Ukraine like a satellite state of Russia, but not outright occupy that. And that gives us a list of advantages. First of all, the Ukrainians aren't going to they're not going to rise up because they're going to perceive that it's their government, which, I mean, it's really a proxy state of Russia, like Belarus or like Georgia or like Kazakhstan is. So you would get less resistance that way. The other thing is that Ukraine's got a lot of liabilities. Their, debt to GDP was insane. I don't remember the exact figures, but financially speaking, Ukraine would have been a liability anyway. So Russia wouldn't want to annex Ukraine on that front either. What Russia wanted to do was, like I said, the same thing in Belarus. They wanted to take control of the private sectors. They wanted to take control of key sectors in the economy and have it run by Russian oligarchs, and then have like a Russian mafia that's in charge in Kiev, like they do in other former Soviet states. And they wanted to make Ukraine as a buffer so that if there was an invasion, Ukraine and Belarus and Georgia and Kazakhstan would do the fighting before the Russians would have to do the fighting. Or the Russians would have the option of coming in and, quote unquote, making themselves look like the good guys. That's the game that they're trying to play. Russia doesn't have the resources to really occupy these territories. They don't have the population. You got to remember, the population is 1/3 of that in the United States. And you could see, how occupying Iraq and Afghanistan, how pleasant that was. Now, can you imagine an armed population in Ukraine? It's not going to go over very well. Not to mention, it's not good PR, and it doesn't make them look good to the other former satellite states. Russia, Putin is trying to uh, give everybody the perception that Russia is a superpower, that Russia is on par with the United States, and are trying to sort of whip other countries in line with regard to doing it that way. So, with that said, it's going to be really hard. And in fact, I expect that there's not going to be an agreement anytime soon, and Trump may just have to just walk away from this conflict completely. It's a bit of a trap. It should have never started to begin with, because now you put the United States in a position where there's no easy out of this, without making the United States look weak like they did in Afghanistan. So just another gift that the Biden administration gave to America. So anyway, let's hope for the best there.